So, hi everybody. My name is Haley. I am an RSS, a recovery coach. I'm the center coordinator for the Torrington CCAR Recovery Community Center. I'm also a woman in recovery. And welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to start talking about the concept of finding your own medicine and how you can utilize that in your own life as a coach, but also with the individuals that you are working with. Jess, you want to go to the next slide? All right, so these are just basically what we're gonna dive into today. So understanding what medicine means in the context of recovery, not necessarily in the context of Western medicine, like a medication or a prescription. Explore ways to help recoveries find their unique medicine for them. Reflect on how coaches can consistently engage with their own medicine to remain grounded in their own self, recovery, and unique energetic frequency as to avoid burnout or compassion fatigue, to remain balanced in yourself and emotionally regulate easier. And equip coaches with tools to serve as resource brokers and guides in building recovery capital and that nice solid foundation to start with. All right, next one, Jess. So this is the three-legged stool. I'm gonna assume that most of you are familiar with this. If you're someone that's, been a part of CCAR or have been a part of a lot of the trainings or things like that, this is what we really build a lot of our coaching on. So treating people as resources, using those active listening skills, discovering and managing your own stuff, which is a big part of this whole finding your own medicine concept. That's a great support for that. And asking those good questions. All right, so we're just gonna set the intention a little bit. So the purpose of this is really to support ourselves and others in discovering what heals, uplifts, makes us feel good, grounded, balanced, but also helps to fill that void from within that a lot of us may fill with substances. Medicine in the term of, it's anything that fills us up, like I was just saying. It's not necessarily one thing. So there, as most of us are aware, with recovery, we don't put all our eggs in one basket. It's not one cure all, end all, fix all. We have to have those multiple forms of support. We have to build that healing toolbox to be able to tap into, to pull those tools out from time to time, situation to situation. Medicine is also, what is it that really nourishes your mind, body, and soul? I like to use the phrase that we are the medicine. How can we harness and tap into that medicine for day-to-day wellness and everything? Medicine, again, going back to it, not necessarily being just one specific thing. It could be coping skills, it could be self-care practices, it could be hobbies, it could be spending time in nature, connecting with a community, other supports, maybe spirituality. There's really no like cut and dry. It's really what is going to hold and support the individual. And again, putting that all into that toolbox to pull from time to time. So I want you guys to just take a second and think about what is one thing that really fills up your cup. And then I would like you guys to either put it in the chat or we can take a minute and if you guys want to share, something that really supports you, holds you, grounds you, keeps you balanced, renews you, helps you to remain, or helps make it easier to regulate emotions and things like that. So we can throw that in the chat, or if anyone wants to share theirs, can raise your hand. That would be cool too. So it looks like Kevin said stretching and exercise. Ted said music with senior citizens and service. That's a good one, that fulfillment, right? Pete, having that daily 1 hour prayer time. And then David also said daily meditations. And I like that you guys are using the word daily, because we're also going to dive into how can we take this medicine and build a daily practice with it too. So Celine said, her spiritual connection to her higher power, which is a good one also. So thank you guys for sharing those. Those are all really great forms of medicine that we, can build our toolboxes around. I see one more, daily exercise, jogging, painting. It calms his soul. I like that there's a couple exercise or movement pieces to this too, because if you think about the way that we've evolved as humans, we're not meant to sit at a desk 40 hours a week, right? So taking that time to, even if it's just a short walk, to stretch, whatever it is, move your body a little bit, it helps to, re-energize you, but also to release some of that energy that might have built up during that daytime or that tension from, the workday or whatnot too. And then I see journaling. So this is all good stuff. Thanks, guys.
I was gonna say something. And
Yeah.
you could look and see. I don't know, you see that hand raised right there? Mine. In case
Oh, yeah.
when people
Sorry.
want to share, we'll let them raise their virtual hand and then you'll see it and then you can call on them.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
so I would say like for me, it would be like going into nature. There's like a park next to my grandmother's house that has like a little stream. And then I could hear like the actual water. The sun is hitting my face like right there. Then for some reason, it's these loud birds up there over to the right. And I end up not hearing anything happening at the park. Seriously, it just be like the water. So that's what I've learned to do. Is
Yeah.
go to that daily, pushing myself to try to go there daily. So thank
Yeah, that's great. That's, one of my biggest tools or medicine, is spending that time outside. And, obviously there's a change in seasons right now up here in Connecticut. And so during the winter, it's not always ideal to get outside.
you. Yeah.
And I know how good I feel when I do take that time to spend in nature. Just the fresh air, the animals, the sounds are extremely healing too. Just the grounding energy of the free electrons just walking on the surface of the earth. Um,
Yes.
there's something about nature that fills me up on a whole different level.
I
And
can
that's
feel you.
yeah, exactly. And that's something that you guys will find too, is there might be your medicine may vary situation by situation, day by day. There might be certain medicine that is more beneficial to you than some of the other ones, or a stronger dose, if you want to call it. So great examples. I see Jose has his hand up.
Yeah, I was trying to put something in the chat, and it's telling me to read AI meeting notes. It's not letting me put that in the chat, but I wrote down spirituality, volunteering, music, reading, and of course the daily morning devotions. That it just really helps to keep me balanced. My day doesn't start off right if I don't do that morning devotions.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. Thank you for sharing. Great example. Great example. All right, did I get everyone with their hands up? I've got a little bit of a glare going over here,
Yep.
but
Everyone is good. I'm gonna lower Jose hand for him.
okay. Thank you guys for participating. All right, Jess, we can move on to the next one. All right, so again, back to this concept of medicine or finding your own medicine. I believe, and a lot of different spiritual paths will believe, that we have everything we need already right within us, which is something that our society has really forgotten about. And if we don't have the energy medicine that we need within us, we can easily access that around us. Now, again, back to medicine may include, coping skills and practices, mindfulness, breath work, gentle movement, spirituality, prayer, whatever it is for you. It could also be a support network, connection to people in recovery, or connection to other peers. It could be doing an activity you really are passionate about, a hobby, tapping into that creative side, nature, grounding practices. Also too, I had read a book that was actually called You Are the Medicine. And then I kind of thought like, of course we are the medicine if we have everything that we need within us. And a big part of that too, that medicine can also be found in your culture. What are your cultural roots? I know a big part of my recovery has been reconnecting to that. And in that, I have found so much peace and inspiration, and healing. Just reconnecting to my great grandfather was of Cherokee descent. So reconnecting to that, culture, those beliefs, their practices, and implementing some of those into my life too. So maybe taking a look at your own culture and seeing what can you pull from that for tools for your toolbox too. And then obviously everyone's unique energy medicine is going to be different because everyone's so different, right? Everyone's recovery looks different. Everyone has different personalities. And our role is not to necessarily ask them to practice the same medicine that we practice, but to walk alongside them in discovering their own. It's really exploring, connecting, or creating who that person truly is, their authentic self. A lot of times you'll hear the quote, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And connection can be in many ways. It could be connection, yes, to others, to a community. It could be connecting to self, reconnecting to self. Because if you think about it, in the beginning of our recovery, we don't know who the heck we are without that substance. So beginning to reconnect to that spirit within, connecting to passions, to hobbies, to coping skills, connecting to your culture, connecting to a higher power, and connecting in so many other ways too. And again, just taking all of that and creating that toolbox that again exists within you that you can always pull from no matter where you are. Just like, you might take a prescribed medication daily or whatnot. This is the same sort of thing. And a prescribed medication can be part of your healing toolbox also. If you're someone that, is on medications or that's one of your supports, that can absolutely be a form of, medication or medicine in your toolbox too. It's really things that ground us, nourish us in the best way, to help with different symptoms, emotions, feelings that we might be experiencing. We've really forgotten as a society that we have all of this within ourselves. And if what we need in that moment is not within us, it's going to be around us, like I was just talking about before. And your medicine can change day to day, experience to experience, and all of that too. So I'm just going to share briefly a little bit about my story and how I wound up on this path. So my pathway to recovery was a little different than a lot of people. It wasn't through a 12-step fellowship or anything like that. I had many attempts at sobriety throughout my lifetime, had been to detox, rehab, outpatient, all sorts of stuff. I don't even know how many times. And then I had kind of just given up and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep using, right? Well, my higher power had a way different plan for me. And so I was kind of thrown into this recovery process at that point. Best thing that ever happened to me. By what I call a divine intervention. I was high on heroin and I was driving. Genius, right? Nodded off, drove off the side of the road. I flipped my car. I was trapped upside down between the car and the tree for over an hour. I broke my neck, my hip, my ankle, my collarbone, 4 of my ribs. They shaved my entire head, and I had 32 staples and a brain injury. Now, as you can imagine, well, I was in a coma, life started. I was in a hospital for close to a year, just procedures and surgeries and bed rest and all of that. So I was very limited as to what I could immerse myself in recovery and support wise. This was prior to COVID. This was 2018. So there wasn't the amount of Zoom meetings that there is now. There definitely was some, but I was not very aware of them. I also, like I was saying before, I was not a 12-step person. I think those fellowships are amazing and they help so many people, but at the time it wasn't something that really resonated with me. So there I was, in that hospital alone, trying to navigate not just my physical limitations, but also in that moment, it was kind of like, yes, I was free of the substance limitation, but then I was still held to the physical limitation of just how broken that I was. So I couldn't, well, obviously I couldn't get out of the bed. I couldn't even get out of the bed to go to the bathroom. So it was just a matter of, all right, what's going to support me while I'm here in this bed? I remember I was getting wheeled in for surgery, and there was a nurse that had stopped wheeling the bed, the stretcher, whatever you want to call it, in the middle of the hallway, and he looks at me like stared into my soul. It was really uncomfortable. And he goes, "You realize that no one survives an accident like that, and obviously what you were doing before wasn't working. So now you need to figure out why you survived, because you have unfinished business here." And that always stuck with me. So I was like, okay, well, now I gotta explore, like, why am I here, right? What's my purpose? Which I feel like is also something that a lot of people, especially in early recovery, struggle with. Um, you know, what is my purpose? Is there a higher power? Because if there is, why is this world the way that it is? And so I eventually realized that that was kind of the beginning of me believing in a higher power, because I believed that, they made me so uncomfortable, threw me into my rock bottom of that accident, so that I was so uncomfortable that I was forced to make those changes. And you hear a lot about duality of life in recovery, and the light only exists because of the dark. And I know that through that dark experience and that horrible experience, and one of the worst things that ever happened to me was also the best thing that ever happened to me, right? It got me sober. It really got me building those skills and starting to build and enhance my life. And so much more. So now back to with me being on bed rest and everything. I had a couple good friends that would come and visit me, and they were very connected to like the spiritual community, the holistic community. And so they would come in, I would talk to them. I'm pretty much an open book. So I would tell them when I was struggling with cravings. They weren't in recovery themselves, by the way. And I was just ready to give up, right? I was really stuck in those efforts. So they would come visit me. A lot of times they would guide me through a meditation. They would practice breath work with me. We would do EFT tapping, which EFT is emotional freedom technique. All of these different holistic practices that I was able to do while sitting in my bed. And for the first time in my life, I found something that actually helped me relax very similarly to that the heroin did. I was able to navigate those raw human emotions that we tend to numb and escape from. So this is the beginning of me building my healing toolbox and these different forms of medicine that I could pull from time to time. Again, back to me, not really being a 12-step person. I then had trouble connecting to a recovery community because I only knew of the 12-step fellowships. I didn't know that there was something like Recovery Dharma and White Bison, Wellbriety, that there was Refuge Recovery, that there was Smart Recovery, that there were all of these options. So I really, once I was healed enough to get out of the bed and into a wheelchair and I could start going out and whatnot, I started going to a lot of holistic events, spiritual events. I would go to things like drum circles, and I would go and receive an energy work, or what a lot of people might know as Reiki. And it was all of this stuff that really helped ground me and keep me balanced and feeling good and filling my cup up so that I didn't have that crazy monkey mind, those, worries, those fears, that irritability. I didn't have as much tension in my body. I then discovered that, yes, people always talk self-care, 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 right? Which is definitely important. I feel like there's a difference between self-care, coping skills, and a daily practice. I feel like coping skills are to utilize when you are experiencing something that you need to cope from. So coping skills are, kind of you utilize them in the moment to help calm your nervous system back down when it gets that spike, right? Whereas self-care is more so a preventative measure. It's so that you do those practices so that you can remain at a balanced level at your nervous system instead of getting those triggers, those trauma response, and having it spike again to then have to utilize those coping skills to bring it back down. So self-care is that preventative measure. Now taking self-care and then creating a daily practice was something that made all of the difference for me. I still am very consistent, and this is a non-negotiable for me, in utilizing my medicine daily. So that, when I'm holding space for someone, when I'm walking alongside someone and coaching, I'm human, so life stuff happens to me too, right? So when these things happened, because I am so regimented in my daily practice, a lot of these things, well, and because of that, I'm so grounded and balanced in my own vibration, my own soul, that when these other things come my way that maybe don't serve me, they can bounce right back off. And it makes it easier for me not to attach to other people's emotions, experiences, vicarious trauma and whatnot, which we all experience a lot in coaching. So it makes it a lot easier to also respond instead of react. If I miss a day of my daily practice, I can feel it. I get that monkey mind going. I'm a little irritable, grouchy, and whatnot. So I do encourage you guys to build that healing toolbox, to build a daily practice for yourself. Notice how you feel before, during, after. And I also encourage you to maybe implement this in your coaching. A lot of times we help our recoveries find coping skills, hobbies, activities, things like that. So it's definitely a very beneficial tool to utilize also. Now, a way that we can support other people in doing this is a couple ways. We can be a resource broker, we can explore passions and purpose, and we can do that with them. Introducing all the different recovery pathways is important, not just what worked for you, but really building that whole. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the analogy of the buffet, but okay, say you are at a buffet with your recovery and you take a plate and you go and you choose a few things off the buffet that you think that they would like and you give it to them. Is that helpful, or are we actually doing a disservice there? What do we think?
I
Let's
think
get some hands. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
David. Hi, David. How you doing?
good. How are you guys?
Good. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you guys. It's fascinating, I think, in my experience of recovery, just discovering that like 12 steps not the only thing that's available. And while we have a lot of very similar attributes as being human beings, we don't all track, we don't all gravitate in the same way. And having more resources gives us the ability to help the people we're working with discover what works for them. And and I have a hard time. It's like religion. There's not one path to the higher power, and there are maybe better paths for some people, but that's a personal discovery, and that's something that the more we have information, the more we can share with the people that we're trying to support. And I think it's more is better in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Um, I feel like C-Card is a really good job at embodying multiple pathways to recovery. And again, I'm sure I'm still not fully aware of every single pathway that is out there, but that's the importance of, so I have a few files on a flash drive that I put resources in. I have a binder that I've built also. So if you guys haven't done that already, I would encourage you to start. Share it with your colleagues, ask them to input things too, so that everything is in one place. Very helpful. I'm just gonna reply to Kevin. Kevin wanted me to repeat the question with the analogy that I had started with. So say, you go out to eat at a buffet with your recovery. You take a plate, you go up to the buffet for your recovery, and you choose a few options that you think they would like, and you give it to them to try. Now, do you think that, is there a better way to do that? Do you think that that could necessarily be a disservice, or do you think that that's really helpful? Because that was a very good intention, right? So what do people think about this one? All right, Kevin, you raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you for repeating it. My ADHD, I zoned out right when I heard you talking about the buffet, and then I zoned out in that second. So thank you. This has been really, really great. So I appreciate you telling your story. I want to say that, and I appreciate the lessons you've learned and how you're sharing them with us.
Thank you.
To answer the question, I think it's absolutely not the best way to I think that they're introducing the notion of of exploring their choices. I think we want to guide them by asking open-ended questions and encouraging them to explore the things that put a twinkle in their eye or that resonate with them. And like you said, we already know the things that that will heal us. We already know what makes us happy. When you start to, but sometimes we're so battered by other people's suggestions and shoulds and shouldn'ts that if you even introduce something from the spirit of, hey, here's something you might like, but you don't have to take, people won't, since it doesn't come from them, it feels like they could reject it because it doesn't come from them. It needs to, the same suggestion that you give them, if they discover it themselves, will have more meaning and have more lasting benefit to them. That's my
Yes.
thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfectly said. And just to touch on that last point that you said, you're exactly right. And the thing is, as coaches, we want to empower people to be independent. We do not want to build any more dependency than there might already be. So maybe by going up and choosing those few options and handing them to them, that might create some dependency there. Because they know that you're going to do it, right? You're going to show up, you're going to help them out, but you're actually doing the work for them instead of empowering their own independence. Now, also too, if we go up and we choose a few options that we think they may like, it's what we think they may like. It may not be what they think they will like. And we're also choosing things usually based off what worked for us, or choices that we are seeing through the perspective of our own unique worldview. So, we can hand them the plate, we can go up with them, and let them ask questions, and we can explain, what's what, but they should be the one to build their own plate. Absolutely. Pete.
Okay, thank you. First of all, Haley, for your story and this training and information. So you almost answered my question right at the end, because I was thinking, well, what if someone doesn't really know what they like in a buffet? Because we are going to run into people that haven't had exposure, that may not know of the many different resources that are out there, right? Like there's
Yeah.
one I mentioned sometimes about choice theory, and many people aren't aware of it, but I was exposed to it in Sacramento, California. It was a guy that he recovered from decades-long addiction to crack cocaine, and then he eventually got his doctorate, after he chose sobriety. But what his approach to recovery was making different choices, which then led to different behaviors, which then led to more consistency, which is essentially what everybody does in all their recovery. But I guess my point is with the buffet is like, maybe sometimes it's okay if we say, hey, why don't you try this? And then they try and they're like, I definitely don't like that. They're like, oh, okay, well, you definitely don't like that. Can you share with me why you don't like that? And then, it's like what everybody else has been saying, that we are trying to cater to them, but it takes time to understand them, right? Like, real quick example, like, if I go to a buffet and I go get food for my wife, I definitely know, don't put pork belly on there, because she doesn't really care about it. She's gonna be like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Why did you give it to me, right? So I think it's relationship too, right? Understanding who we're working with, really listening to them, getting to know, their likes and their dislikes. So, but I appreciate, I just being an amateur foodie, I like this analogy.
Who doesn't like food, right? Who doesn't like a good buffet? But all right. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate your feedback. Jessica.
Yeah, so one of my big things are like vision boards. Um, and I also like I also like the wellness tools that CCAR offered through the different manuals. I think that when you first initially meet your recovery, or even maybe 3 months or every 60 days or something, it's important to like do that as a session. Revisit, how does your recovery look like? What can I support you with? Um, have you noticed any pathways? Any new pathways you wanted to explore? Just using each time that you meet with them a way to not only connect, but also help them stay grounded in the space, and reminding them those techniques. And I know for me, like writing things down, or maybe pictures, or having those words. And like you said, for the staff to create a folder, maybe you guys could create your own folder together. Like, oh, you feeling like this today? Let's go to this page right here. Hold up, hold up. Another thing I learned last week too, someone said, like asking what type of weather, like what's your weather today? Like, is it 75 degrees and sunny, or is it a little cloudy with some hail coming through?
I like that.
I loved it. So I think that just having that time to, even if it's just a 5 minute or 10 minute check-in as like a little meetup date, to just revisit those things, I think it would be super helpful, not only for you, but the people we're serving. Thank you.
Thanks, Chef.
David had his hand up.
That's what I was just gonna say.
David. We don't play that in here. Come on, David. We want to hear it.
One, just a gratitude. This is my first CCAR class, and it took 58 years to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And it took addiction to find the focus. And so my gratitude is, it is so amazing to meet and learn about all these other people who have struggled in similar ways. And that's my gratitude. The only thing I could share with this, I love, Kevin, what you said, Pete, what you said, Haley, Jessica. I think they're all on track. The hardest thing for me to let go of was the concept of taking a horse to water. For 17 years, I tried to teach my ex-wife in the most gentle way that I knew about the water. And I realized that the people we help, the people we work with, the people we connect to, there's no hero. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to make that decision. And whether it's by divine intervention, higher power, rock bottom, you have to be ready and willing to drink the water. And no matter how many, she used to argue or be annoyed that she's like, you're beating around the bush. Stop beating around the bush and tell me what to do. And I know from what you have also, Jessica, reiterated, and Haley, and Pete, and most importantly, Kevin, unless they come up with the idea themselves, it's very difficult to say, oh yeah, that'll work for me. And it's made me change my language because they haven't experienced what I've experienced. What's worked for me won't necessarily work for them. And until they have that aha moment, I beat around the bush, hoping that they'll pick up those kernels or those ideas and go, spark a question and go, why? What is that? Dig. And it's hard to, and this is good medicine. It's hard to watch people fail when you feel like there's an answer and I know the answer, but I can't tell you it. You have to find it on your own. But I can help you, like you said, Haley, the most important part, I can help you walk this path. And that's beautiful. And thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, the weather in Colorado and in myself is sunny, bright, and I'm a Viking, so it's about 65 degrees, perfect day.
You are incredible.
Yeah, thank you, David. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your share, and I'm really happy that you're here with us today. That was beautiful. Thank you. Okay, we can do one more hand. I don't know how to pronounce your
Fitz.
name.
His name is Fitz
Okay,
for
Fitz.
short. Hi, Fitz.
Hey Jess, how are you? Awesome.
good.
Thank you for sharing your story and those who shared after you, Haley. For me, in this process, it's imperative to be able to connect with my peer who I'm working with and try to figure out how they can navigate what their needs are. Oftentimes I connect with them and that's thrown upon me like, hey, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. And I'm like, well, okay, I can't give that to you, but we can try to find a way. So let's start off, as Jess talked about, let's make a list. Let's set up some pros and some cons. What do you know, in this situation, what do you may need? In that situation, you know, what you may not need. In developing that with the individual kind of like opens the door for us to communicate. I am huge on that when it comes to being able to connect with that person enough that they are willing to say, well, you know, it's not so sunny, the hail is coming down and, you know, and life sucks right now. So I don't want to be a part of it or anything of that nature, which leads me to, okay, so how did you get to that point? And, you know, the open-ended questions and prodding a little bit, but softly enough to say, you know, I'm here with you. It's not just about what you're going through, but know that somebody's here with you. So, you know, how can we start, you know, figuring out to adjust how you're going to move forward and or what is it that you feel could help you, you know, and I don't know, you know, I need you to tell me. Well, that is something I can't do because if I tell you, then now I'm interjecting my thoughts into your, you know, your travel, your journey. So let's be a little proactive in that. Tell me the last time you thought of yourself, you know, as being a good person or in a happy place or whatever. So I start, you know, that process of just poking and prodding and getting them to, and as they're doing that, I'm writing down some of their answers and some of the different things that they talk about. And sometimes I get caught and they're like, well, what are you writing? And I'm like, just the stuff that we're talking about. I'm not writing anything about you or any, just
Right.
what you said, because some of what you said I can possibly use in my life, you know, and make that connection. And once we make that connection to show them like, hey, you know, I'm here with you, man. I'm learning from you just like, you know, you can learn from me. And then the process
Yes.
opens up. So it's a genuine you know, a way of connecting with that person to say, hey, you know, as a recovery support specialist, recovery coach, life partner, whatever, you know, it was a learned behavior for me because I never was always like that. You know, I'm 61 and, you know, I've been an RSS for 5 years and man, have I learned so many different things in this process that I never knew. And, you know, my learning continues because I'm an open, you know, I try to stay teachable in this process because like Jess said, you know, I pick up off of any little thing and add it to my folder and, you know, now it becomes a part of me. I own it and then I begin to use it and, you know, so it moves forward. So thank you for letting me share that.
No, thank you for that. I really appreciate, you talking about being open to learning, right? Because sometimes I feel like I learn more from my recoveries than they're learning from me.
Mhm.
And we're always learning, evolving, growing, and skill building, right? So continuing to be that student of life, I really appreciate you having that perspective. Um, so, all right, just kind of circling back quickly, with being a resource broker, helping to introduce them to finding their pathway, exploring coping skills and self-care practices. Again, you could start with brainstorming a list of what has worked for them in the past, what they would like to try, what they find exciting or interesting. And then practice those with them while you're in session, start exploring those and actually doing those skills together, because then they're more likely to implement them if they've already tried them. No one should have to go through anything alone, especially something like recovery, right? So just the fact that they've already tried it, they might be able to implement it even easier. And then sharing those tools without the attachment to a goal or an outcome, allowing them to choose what resonates. I like the term cherry pick. People can take what they need take what resonates, leave the rest, whether that's from different pathways, different skills, different supports, whatnot. And then also something that has helped me not attach to outcomes and things like that is just Brene Brown had done a TED Talk one time, and she talked about, well, she said, everyone is doing the best that they can with what their life experience has taught them so far. And as they know better, they do better. And then that creates the space for other people to do the same thing. And that quote has helped me stay focused on compassion, and not attached to the outcomes or experiences or things that they're going through too. Just helps to see it from that lens of grace and compassion too. And then helping them explore their passions and a purpose. A lot of people, like I said earlier, they don't know what their purpose is. They don't know why they're here, and that is extremely frustrating. So a lot of times I encourage people to do more of what they love. Take part in your hobbies, those fun activities, those things that fill you up, those things you are passionate about, because eventually that passion is going to lead you to your purpose. So helping them explore those passions. And again, a list is a really good thing of what they might want to explore, try out, because then that will also lead to that fulfillment piece, which is extremely important. Also, a lot of people, when they don't know where to start, I always ask them, what did you love doing when you were a kid that you stopped doing? And do you want to reconnect with that? That also sometimes has some insight, some clarity there too. And again, just back to helping them try these activities. Places like the Phoenix, it's a sober active community. They've got virtual and in-person events, offerings, meetings, groups, all sorts of stuff, which is a great place for people to start dipping their toe in the water. It's free, it's peer-led. And then the CCAR Recovery Community Centers are very similar. They've got also all types of training, support groups, meetings, therapeutic groups, and fun activities again. And you're also building that community with like-minded people while you're already doing those activities to start exploring what you do find as fun. What are those hobbies? What are those things? And just a suggestion too, whether this is for yourself or for your recovery, exploring, I don't know if any of you know what passion mapping is. It's just another tool that that you can utilize when exploring passions. It's a process of identifying and visualizing passions, goals, aspirations that create a roadmap for living a fulfilling life by connecting with those passions and aligning your purpose and actions too. So I believe I created a document that I did give to Travis, Jess. He is going to send it out to everyone as a supplemental too. It's just got
Okay.
like the step-by-step of how to do passion mapping.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I love doing that with my recoveries, and I even do it from time to time too, to see where I'm at with that. And then again, we don't just want to talk the talk, we want to walk the walk. Practicing and implementing everything with your recoveries. Again, if no one should be going through things alone, right? So helping them to already start the first step can make all of the difference. Jess, go back one slide real quick. I know we only have 10 minutes left, but and then so us coaches in our medicine, again, back to walking the walk. So you've all heard the quote, you can't pour from an empty cup. We need to be practicing and utilizing our own self-care, our own medicine to show up fully present, fully grounded, fully balanced, right? We need to practice what we preach too. And if we're going to ask people to utilize coping skills and self-care and help them build a daily practice, we need to be doing it too, because we can't help anyone or show up fully, no matter how good our intention is, unless we are grounded, balanced, and have implemented modalities for our own healing first, right? Having those daily practices that we're consistent with helps to keep us grounded. Because let's face it, this work can be heavy sometimes, right? It's very rewarding. I love it, but sometimes it can be heavy. So having that daily non-negotiable routine is going to help it so that you don't get that compassion fatigue, that burnout as easily. And you can stay fully present even throughout those difficult times too. Instead of being up in that emotional mind, right? And then so my daily practice looks different day to day a lot of the time. It took me a little bit to figure out, what time of day is my daily practice. What does it look like? What does it consist of? So I do both a morning and an evening daily practice. They're different from each other. So my morning daily practice is I usually get up. First thing I do is I like drink some warm lemon water. I go outside with the dog for a few minutes. And while I'm outside, I just kind of take everything in, listen to the birds, look at the trees, all of that. I will also say a little prayer while I'm out there, and set my intention for the day. Then I go inside, I take a shower, and towards the end of the shower, I will turn the nozzle all the way over to the cold. It's cold water therapy, cryotherapy or something like that. And I only do that for 30 seconds because that's all I can tolerate. I used to only be able to do like 3 seconds. So now I'm up to 30. It's not the most enjoyable experience. However, then I shut my shower off. I get out, and that cold water helps to really wake me up. It gives me more energy. I get mental clarity. There's like some dopamine going on or something like that. It also helps with inflammation and pain relief too. You guys can look into that. There's a lot of other benefits to it. I'm not sure off the top of my head. So I do that. Then I go out into the living room, which is my sacred space. I light a candle or an incense or something, and I meditate. Now, while I'm meditating too, I also start to visualize what I want my day to look like and feel like. And then once that's over, I, go to work, go about my day and whatnot. And that helps start my day off on the right foot. I'm grounded, I'm present, I feel good. I can show up fully and lead from my heart, right? Now, the end of the day, because life on life's terms, right? Things happen. So sometimes my evening routine can be more intensive some days than other days. And that usually has parts of, my morning practice, but usually looks like when I get home from work, the first thing I do is I change into some comfy clothes. I then take my dog and we go for a nature walk. Now, while I'm in nature, I walk very slowly on purpose. I just really want to take it all in. I want to see everything. I want to hear everything. Nature is also my church. So there's that spirituality piece. And when I'm in nature is when I feel most connected. You also have, the free electrons going, the fresh air. There's so many healing properties to just the elements alone, earth, air, fire, water. And really taking that all in. I've also, with that being my church too, I also have really connected, with my cultural roots of, Native American culture, but now it's to the point where because I am connecting with myself, with the earth, with my higher power, a lot of times when an animal crosses my path, that's another form of energy medicine for myself. Because when that animal crosses my path, I think about what was I thinking in that moment that animal crossed my path. And then I think about the animal and I kind of analyze like the way that they function and their habits and things like that. And I usually could get some sort of insight, clarity, or message from that. That relates to that thought that I was thinking about. So a lot of times I'll take that, whether it's from whether it's a sign, or I use it as, I can call on this animal for support too, you know, just like people call on an angel or a loved one or a guide or their higher power or whatnot. I have a very in-depth book too that is like the dictionary of animals, and it has like the breakdown of all of the messages and meanings and the energy medicine and whatnot too. So that is helpful for me day to day, is calling those animals in. I do some deep breathing too while I'm walking. Then when I get home, I will usually meditate for a little bit longer. And then I'll get in the shower again. Now, this is a shorter, just warm shower. And in that, because it is the end of the day, what I do is I visualize, you know, the water coming down and rinsing off anything that I might have held on to from the day that isn't serving me. And I watch it go down the drain and go back to the earth where it can be transmuted. Then I usually, you know, make a cup of tea, relax for the rest of the night and whatnot. If I am feeling tension in my body or those low emotions, I'll take those full deep belly breaths, because we don't breathe very deeply throughout the day. We hold a lot of stagnant air, stagnant energy, low emotions in our stomach. So when you make the choice to breathe in deeply, fill that belly up, and then exhale, you have the power to release all of those negative sensations just within yourself too. We've forgotten how sacred our breath is. It's the first thing we do when we enter this world, the last thing we do when we leave it, and we can use it as another medicine, another tool. You know, okay, perfect. So helping, you know, your recoveries build that daily practice, you can help them, you know, write out a couple different daily practice routines, help them explore a few different modalities or skills. Ask them, you know, what has supported them before, what makes them feel good, what calms you down, all of that, and helping them build that non-negotiable 5 to 10 minute or however long routine. And if all they can handle is starting with 30 seconds, that's great. You know, start with 30 seconds. We got to start somewhere. But it's just the concept of having that time to give yourself that medicine so that we can show up as our true authentic self, fully present. Yeah, I just totally lost my spot.
I just moved it to the last slide. I don't know.
Okay,
Because we had
perfect.
talked about the Phoenix and all of that, which was the slide before that.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so helping them build that daily practice, helping them to find their medicine, find those resources, those supports, those coping skills, everything, helping them explore, you know, what makes you feel good that's healthy? What are those activities? What can we use to fill that void that we usually fill with substances? And then creating that new way of living. There's something called the Try Something New Challenge, which I think that if you guys did it together, it could be very awesome. You would, you know, set the goal of practicing or trying one modality, practice, activity, skill that you've never tried before but find very interesting. So you and the recovery would each do it on your own time. Next session, come back, share your experiences. How did you feel during, before, after? Is this something we want to put in our toolbox, or do we want to try something else? You know, and always being aware of all of those community resources, so that we have those multiple supports to give to people. I am a part of a task force, so if you guys have a task force in your area, that's a great resource to get involved with for networking, to talk about, you know, recovery coaching situations, but also to share those resources. The one that I'm in has everyone contributes to one document, and we each can pull from it time to time, so it's really full. And then just to wrap up, thinking about what is your medicine? I don't know if that's changed from when I asked that question in the beginning. What is your medicine? Or even what's one medicine you want to commit to trying or exploring or practicing? You guys are welcome to put that in the chat if you would like. Kevin, a task force. So I'm part of what's called the Litchfield County Opiate Task Force. It's usually like some sort of opiate task force, or it's usually like a group of different agencies, community partners that are all in the substance use mental health field, for collaboration and all that. It's a really good resource for support for yourself as a coach and networking and all those questions and whatnot.
Could I ask, how would we identify a task force in our area, or who organizes and manages task forces?
Yeah, so
I never heard of that before.
yeah, so where are you located?
I'm in Hastings, just in Lower Westchester, just outside of New York City.
Okay, so I'm in Connecticut, so I'm not too familiar with that area, but it's usually a partnership of different agencies, and they usually will chair this task force. So I would think if you were to go onto Google or something and Google like your county.
Recovery Task Force.
Exactly, your county recovery force or opiate task force, because a lot of them, because of the opioid epidemic, are kind of geared that way. But yeah, I would look into that.
Does somebody manage your task force? Is there a leader of your task force?
Yes,
Could you
yes,
inspire, maybe they're part of a directory, or there's some directory like?
yeah. I can ask. I honestly, I don't think that there's any connection there, but I could be completely wrong. So I definitely will ask
Thank
and
you.
look into that for you and see if there's any way that she is aware what is in your area, or a different group that's similar but a different name. And then how do let's see, you put your number in here somewhere, Kevin, right? Or was that someone else?
I did. You can please email or call me and let me know. Text me.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
All right, you got it, my friend. Yeah, so I just encourage you guys to find your medicine, build that toolbox of all of those different medicines, practices, modalities, self-care, skills, supports, you name it, whatever it is that works for you, that fills you up, and isn't just there to cope with life, but to really fill you up in a whole way that you feel fulfilled. And it makes your life worth living because you have something that makes you feel good and just sets your soul on fire too. So absolutely. So yeah, helping your recoveries with a daily practice. Could be grounding exercises, journaling, nature, mindful movement. Help them explore what makes them feel good. Just create a list of things that make them feel good. Because there could be a lot of insight there. And so I'm just gonna ask everyone. Does anyone want to share one takeaway, insight, or commitment? You can shoot that in the chat really quickly. And I'm happy to stay afterwards if anyone has any questions. But I know we went 4 minutes over, so. Thank you guys for attending. David, what's up, my friend?
I just I recognize the need for our community to connect with other communities, as well as having more nodes of opportunity in helping other people and ourselves. And I finished a book recently that has affected how I look at these communities that I want to belong to and dig into them before I make commitments. And I'm probably going to repeat something that somebody has heard, but if you haven't, um, I think he's got a very healthy understanding of humanity, addiction, and living life in our current society. And I cannot recommend Gabor Mate in the realm of Hungry Ghosts. Be aware that we have a society that has been built and driven to get money and to control and to keep people in their addictions.
Mhm.
And if you haven't read it, highly recommend it and apply his principles when you're looking at your task force that you want to join and you're looking at the organizations you want to be involved with, because not everybody's here to help. And I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And I hope it's hopeful to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, David. That is a really good, insightful book. Gabor Mate is brilliant, but I mean, you have a great point, and this is the importance of a recovery coach or an RSS is, yes, the system is, I'm not going to swear, but it's screwed up, right? And it's very broken. And as a recovery coach, we get to start to be that change agent. We get to break down those barriers. We get to help our recoveries navigate this broken system because we've had to do it too. And eventually us just being that ripple effect is going to be that catalyst for these systems to change. So thank you for bringing that up. John.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, because I'm using a set of headphones as a microphone. But this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to attend one of the live meetings. And I can only imagine what it was like or what it felt like for everybody here for a first time. It's incredibly informative. And you did amazing on expressing a lot of different ideals. The one caught my attention was, did you do a disservice? If you go to a buffet for somebody? The only disservice that I could see with that is if you didn't monitor and discuss with them and ask them questions prior and just blindly went into it, that would be the only disservice, because you're really just trying to, it's like a gamble. But if you have some kind of specifics founded in your description of what you could reach out for these people, it's not really a disservice because you've already worked with them a little bit and now you brought them to a buffet. But it seems like it would require a maturity in their sobriety, because in the beginning of it, that's something that you might not want to bring right away. That's where the discussions would play the biggest role on what would work best or what they think would work best and discussing with it. But yeah, no, this is, like I said, this is my first time on a live one, and I can see, especially through David, the level of emotion that can get invested when expressing, their ideals and their perceptions, and the professionalism that was exhibited throughout the whole thing. It's really something I'm extremely interested in, and I'll be here on the next one. Absolutely, I can't wait to learn more. You know what I mean? So,
Thanks, John. John, where are you located?
Torrington, Connecticut.
You should come to the community center sometime.
Is that on Field Street?
Yes. Yep. Corner of Field and Pearl. We'd love to see you.
Is that where you're at?
Yes.
All right, that's awesome. Well, maybe that's something I could discuss with you in the future.
Absolutely. However I can help.
Yeah, because I'm only about maybe half mile away.
Yep.
You better
perfect.
go there, John. Stop
Yep.
playing.
All right.
We ain't playing with you, John.
It's really funny because I'm pretty sure you did one of my tattoos like
You know exactly who I am.
15 years ago or something like that. Yeah,
I
that's-
thought you looked familiar too as well, but that's something we could discuss outside of this. But yeah, great job from what I heard everybody describe, and what an awesome platform to be able to connect with people too. That's the other part. It's just I went out, grabbed myself, a camera, still trying to know how to look in it and look at the screen and not look weird looking at it. A laptop has it right in the center, so it's easy. I got a 45-inch screen that I'm looking at with this, and so I'll get the hang of it, I guess.
Yeah, you're doing great, honestly. Don't be so hard on yourself. It seems like you got a lot of experience and knowledge and like good energy as well. So next one, maybe you'll stretch a little and might participate a little more and drop some gems on us.
I think sometimes one of the best ways is block this and open these, right?
Yeah, but here at CCAR, we learn from each other. Like we
That-
treat each other as resources because we're from all different places, all different walks of life, all different experiences. We have all different tools under our belts. And so when we get into these areas, we learn so much from each other by sharing. So don't always feel, I think it's a balance,
It's
right?
certain,
Learn how to listen and speak a little bit.
absolutely. I just didn't want to steal anybody's thunder. I wanted to take
Ah,
the first experience and kind of like sit back and watch for a minute. That because this is
yeah,
my first one. So
that's great.
when is the next one?
I think it's one every month.
One a month.
So yeah, I think it's once a month. If you put your email in there, I'll see if I could just like shoot you. You could DM me or Haley. We'll send you the next one. But I
Okay.
think it's once a month, every month at the end of the
Yeah.
month.
I'm just gonna throw it in chat. I think
Pete act like he know. He like, yeah. So it's once a month, right, Pete?
Yeah, I attend these regularly as often as I can because, like everybody's been sharing tons of information and then this great exchange, and then we get to connect with each other.
Yeah.
I actually reside in Vancouver, Washington. So,
Wow.
but I'm an early riser, so this always works out perfect for me. And I love connecting with, anything and that's related to CCAR just because that was the foundation of what we're doing, in the
Yeah.
recovery community, right? And so, yeah, I love it. Thank you again,
So nice
Haley
to
and
meet you.
Jessica. Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Kevin, you've had your hand up for a little.
Yeah, well, first, I want to come by the community center. And even
Please
though,
do.
how far is it from New York City?
Like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and do you have events there that would make it worth the trip, like where there was an event that or something like that? I'd be interested in something like that.
Yeah, no, we do events daily. We've always got activities going and we do
Nice.
yoga and sound healing and all sorts of like recovery coach trainings and support groups. And we've got
Yeah.
all recovery meetings and different meetings from all sorts of pathways. We are going to be doing a couple field trips this spring. We're going to go on some hikes. We're going to go with
Is there an agenda posted or something like that I could
yeah,
see?
I can
And
send
also, you mentioned drum circles, and I've really always wanted to do that. So if you could put in the chat where I could check the calendar and maybe one day I'm going to hit that place. But I did want to say one other thing quickly about John's share. And I'm in the process of becoming a recovery coach. I've taken the academy. I have one more class to take, and then I have to pass the test and stuff like that. But so I'm in the process. And one of the things I'm learning, and John, you're not wrong. It's not a disservice to listen to your recovery and then to offer some. It's not a disservice, but one
Right.
thing I have learned, and just to repeat what Haley said also, is the value of the recovery to think of it themselves, that autonomy, giving them the autonomy to think of it themselves is the key thing that I've learned is a game changer for somebody to develop. And this is behavioral science 101. We don't change, especially alcoholics and addicts. I mean, come on, you tell me something and my first reaction is going to be, yeah, I'll figure it out myself. We have these biases. But when I think of it myself, and that's the gift you're giving to the recovery, is sort of a nuanced way of, yeah, you know the answer, but you want them to come up with it. Haley, you can correct me if I'm wrong or add to that, but that's just a point I wanted to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate, everyone participating and bouncing stuff off of each other. I like when it's not just me word vomiting at everybody. All right. So if no one has anything else, I think that we'll wrap it up.
All right,
Thank
this was
you.
awesome. Nice
Haley,
to meet
that was
everyone.
great.
Have a wonderful
So
day.
much.
Happy
Appreciate it.
Friday.
Bye.
Yeah.